Hey folks, welcome back to the bench. So today we're going to talk about the Hornady Headspace Comparator set. You can buy it from Hornady. It's basically a set of inserts, and you can buy them all at once as a kit or individually, and a body to hold the inserts that goes on your calipers. And what they do is they measure the distance between the base of your casing and the shoulder datum. Wherever the specification is for the shoulder datum, that's where it's going to measure to. On the 30-06, you can see it measures to roughly about midway on the shoulder. And the first thing you should do whenever you get these to set them up is body and comparator that you want to use together. And you tighten down the little set screw. They even give you an Allen wrench for it, which is, I guess it's handy. To keep everything in one spot. You don't have to go looking for the tools. Okay, and then you either put a Sharpie mark, which is fine, but eventually it'll rub off. Or if you look closely, you can see where I've actually scratched in with an awl and a straight edge a couple of index marks, one on the body and then one on the insert. And since these things are aluminum and they're not super duper skookum machined, there is some variation in the mating surfaces between the body and the comparator. All this does is give you consistency. The measurement is not going to be an absolute true measurement, but you're going to get the same relative measurement each time by making sure that you put this thing together the same way each time. So once you do that, the next thing that I like to do is slap in the old calipers. And I like to line up the middle of the upper jaw and try to center the opening in the insert on that upper jaw as close as I can within reason. All right. Give them a little pinch to hold them together. Tighten that sucker down. Make sure it's zeroed out. Okay. Now I like to take a set of go, no-go gauges for whatever caliber I'm working with. And I like to get an idea of what the variation is between the measurements this is giving me and what the true measurements should be. And unless you actually have like a perfect way of measuring, you're not going to know exactly where you are. But the closer you can get, the better. So we'll take the 30-06 Go gauge. We'll slap her in there. And again, you don't want to crank down on this. You don't want to be pushing against it like crazy. Just enough to hold everything in place. And so you see we get a 2033.5. And that's for the Go gauge. Whereas the actual Go measurement should be 204.87. This is fine. This is not a big deal. These things are notoriously not accurate in terms of matching SAMI numbers. And we'll take the no-go gauge and we'll slap her in there. And we get 2039. So there's about 6 thou difference. And you can see this number here, a little bit hard to read. That's 205.47. That's the no-go gauge. And on the go gauge, we've got 204.87. Well, if you add 6 thousandths to that number, 204.87, let's see, say a 4, carry the 1, 205.47 will give you 205.47. So we know that the absolute measurements are not spot on. But relatively speaking, this is measuring the 6 thou. And it's actually measuring what? Measuring like 5.5 thou. But that's close enough for what we need to do. All right, so now we take a piece of 30-06 brass, right? Remington, I think this is twice fired now. Yeah, this is twice fired brass. So it's been through the ringer. It's had full power loads through it a couple times. And the shoulder, which begins there and ends right there, gets bumped back when we resize the brass. The less distance we push this shoulder back, the less work hardening we give the brass. The less work hardening, the longer the brass lasts. And that's the name of the game. Make the brass last within reason. All right, so according to this piece of brass is showing right at SAMI minimums. Meaning that once it was fired, it conformed pretty closely to what the Go gauge said. Now, I know that's bullshit. Remington is not cutting their chambers to SAMI minimum. If they did, people would be howling because you don't always get perfectly spec'd brass. But that said, it's given me an idea of where to start with this piece right here. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go and resize it, and we'll take a look at that. And we'll be using this tool in the process of resizing to see how much we're pushing that shoulder back, and whether we want to push it back too much, or if we pushed it back too much, or if we need to go and adjust our die to reduce the amount of bump that we're giving to the shoulder. So we'll go do that next. All right, so there's two ways you can adjust your die. Say hi, die. Hi, die. Really, there's two ways you can adjust the amount of bump you give the shoulder. One is by adjusting the die by screwing it down or up in the press to alter the distance between the base of the shell holder and wherever the shoulder forming surface is on the inside of the die. And that's kind of a pain in the ass. And you know, there's other more super pricey dies you can use that make it a little easier to make those adjustments. But it just, don't like to bother with it if I don't have to. But there's another neat tool you can get, and they just came in the mail today. And yes, I paid for them, so I'm not shilling for anybody. But it's the writing, reloading equipment competition shell holder set, size 1. So this is for 30-06. It'll also do 45 ACP, not that you really need it. And it should do 308 as well, 308 Winchester, not accurately improved. And for our measuring purposes, I brought out the big guns, the Mitutoyo, because everybody knows, or what I've got, they're handy. And they're pretty good, you know. They make a pretty good product. Those are actually really old ones. All right, so I got some lube schmoo on here. I don't want to get anything stuck. God, that would just suck. So we'll start with this is an RCBS number 3 shell holder right here. Focus, okay, and that's for 30-06. And the dimension that we care about is right here from the base of the shell holder that's going to rest against the base, the top of the ram there, to the deck right here. Whoops, the deck right there, where the head of the case is going to rest. So when you slap her in there, that's where she's resting. She's resting right on that surface right there. So the distance between there and the bottom of this is what we care about. So we'll get our trusty Tora calipers. And they're saying we've got we'll call it 123. Right there for this one. Then we'll go to let's go look at the number 10. And they mark these as, and that's going to not show up too well, but as plus a measurement. So that's plus 10 thou, okay? And we'll take that same measurement right off the yawn here. And we've got that at it's about 119 or so. All right, so that's already a difference of about 4 thou under the RCBS unit. And just to keep with the funnin', here's the 2 thou. You can kind of see, there you go. And we'll get a measurement off that. And that one's coming in at about 124, which is interesting. That's 124. Now I'm told that the industry standard is 125, but obviously no one appears to know what the industry standard is because everyone's making it differently. So this, believe it or not, would actually push my shoulder back further than this one would, even though this is supposed to prevent exactly that problem. At least the set is meant to prevent that problem. So to keep things simple, we will start with, let's see, let's take a measurement on the 8 while we're out measuring stuff and we have all the fun tools out. All right, so this is the plus 8 thou. Focus. All right, and quick measurement there. And this one's shown at about exactly 120. Yeah, 120, we'll call it 120. All right. So that should bring it in a little bit shorter than this one would. We'll start with the RCBS just to see what happens. So slap that sucker in there. And we got our schmooed up piece of brass. And just to refresh my memory, because I don't have that good of memory. Come here, you. I'm going to measure this sucker one more time. before we resize it. All right, so there you go, 2033. Now the first thing that's going to happen as we start to run this through the die is we're going to compress the body here. And that's going to literally squish everything up and forward. So it wouldn't be uncommon to see the shoulder actually get bumped forward. The problem is that then what you're basically doing is body sizing slightly and neck sizing, which is okay if that's what you want to do. But if it's not what you want to do, then you have to adjust. So let's see. All right, so we've got a 2033, and now we're at what? Okay, so 2032, so we actually managed to bump it back like that. Now what, say this one was not where we wanted it to be. Let's say we took the, let's see, where's the 2 thou? There's the 2 thou shell holder. Slap the 2 thou shell holder in there. Run that sucker up into the die. And bring her back down. And into the measuring gizmo she goes. Now we're at 20, well, she was at 2031. I kind of had to adjust my grip though. Put in the camera. There we go. Yeah, so she's almost at 2030 now. 2031. So we took her down about 2 thou, 2.5 thou. Now in this case, this is way, way undersized now for my chamber. But it gives you an idea of how this tool, combined with a decent set of dies, and this tool can help you resize your brass and make it a little bit easier on you without having to adjust this tool right here, or the nut behind the keyboard. That's the other tool that sometimes needs adjusting, but I leave that up to my wife. Bless her heart for putting up with me. Okay, folks, so I'm kind of curious if anyone else has used the Redding competition shell holder set with non-Redding dies, and if they've found even them to not be, within specification. Because I can tell you right now that the plus 10 thou and the plus 2 thou, they're not 8 thou apart. I mean, let's see. So here's the 10. Oh, get Japanese goodies again. Right, so there's the 10 coming in at about 120. Okay, now theoretically, 120 minus 8 should be 112. Or excuse me, plus 8. 120 plus would be 128. So we're going up. And we're actually at about 125, 124 right there. So there's about a 5 thou difference, not an 8 thou difference. I don't know, kind of a pain in the ass. These might actually be going back because for 50 bucks I would expect them to at least machine them properly. All right, so that's it for now. If you got any questions or comments, let me know. Leave a comment in the diddly-do down there. Thumbs up, thumbs down, what works, what doesn't work, and I'll see you next time.